Okay, let's solve this problem. We have a beverage called Orange Drink. It has 10% orange juice. We have a beverage called Orange Delight. It has 50% orange juice. The question is, how many gallons of the Orange Delight, in other words, the 50% orange juice, must we mix with 300 gallons of the Orange Drink, that's the 10% orange juice, in order to get a new mixture of Orange Blast, that's the name of it, that has 40% orange juice? Okay, now to do this, we have to consider that in decimal form, 10% is written 0.1, and 50% is written 0.5, and 40% is written 0.4. Okay, so, and we also are going to use a mixing formula that says the quantity of the main ingredient, which in this case is OJ, equals the percentage of the OJ times the amount of that beverage. The amount of the solution is the amount of beverage in your container. Okay, so the thing we're looking for is the amount of Orange Delight. So let's let X equal the amount of Orange Delight, and then let's make a table with the Q equals percent times A. Quantity of orange juice equals the percent of orange juice times the amount in the container. So first we have the first row, we have the drink, the 10% beverage, the delight, the 5% beverage, and the blast, the 40%. I'm sorry, the 50% and 40% are the last two. Okay, now, remember we said for a 10%, that in decimal form is 0.1. So under the percentage column, for the word drink, we should have 0.1. Now that's a mistake. I put 0.01. That's wrong. It should say 0.1 times the amount of that. They said at 300 gallons. Now for the delight, we put 0.5 because it's a 50% beverage, and times the amount. The amount of the delight, they said, was X. And then for the blast, the percentage of orange juice is 40%, so it's 0.4 times parenthesis. Well, you know what? The container for the blast is empty when we start, so we're going to add to that empty container for the blast the 300 gallons of drink plus the X gallons of delight. Therefore, the amount inside of the blast container is going to be X plus 300. Now, to get the quantities Q columns, just multiply the percentages times the amount. Make the correction in the 0.01, change that to 0.1, and multiply it by 300. You'll get 0.1 times 300. Then multiply 0.5 times X, you get 0.5X for the quantity of orange juice in the delight, and the quantity of orange juice in the blast is 0.4 times X plus 300. Okay, let's draw a picture. The picture is nice because it helps us realize what's going on. We've got this huge empty vat that's going to contain the blast. That's the 40% orange juice solution. It's empty right now. And we're going to add 300 gallons of the 10% orange drink and X gallons of the 50% orange delight to that empty vat of the 40% blast. So how much orange juice are we going to have inside of the vat? Well, the quantity of orange juice in the blast, which is now empty, is going to have to come from those only those two sources. So it's going to equal the quantity of orange juice coming from the drink, which is the 10% solution, plus the quantity of orange juice coming from the delight, the 50% solution. Okay, so let's write this in symbols. Q sub 40% is equal to, that's the quantity in the blast, Q sub 40% is equal to Q sub 10% plus Q sub 50%. So the quantity of orange juice is coming from those two sources. Okay, well, what is Q sub 40%? Look at the table. Q sub 40% is for the blast is 0.4 parenthesis X plus 300. Bring down the equal sign. Replace Q sub 10% by what's in the Q column for the 10% beverage, the drink. It's 0.1 times 300 plus Q sub 50% from the chart, the table, it's just 0.5 times X. Okay, let's solve this for X. Get rid of the parentheses, distribute multiplication by 0.4. We get 0.4X plus 120 equals, bring down 0.1 times 300 is 30, and then 0.5 times X. Add those together. Okay, let's isolate the X terms on the left. We get 90 equals 0.1 times X, and divide both sides by 0.1. So what we're going to do is divide 90 by 0.1. Let me show you. We take 90, we divide by 0.1, and then when we divide by 0.1 on the other side, it just gives us X. So X, which we said was the amount of orange delight that we had to add, is going to be equal to 900 gallons. 900 gallons of Orange Delight has to be added to the 300 gallons of orange drink to come up with the 40% blast solution.